whatever time you're listening. It's Kim the Herbalist, and I'm out with my good friend Andrew Norris, who helps me with my films, and I thought I'd take him on a herb walk. So we're out on the Sussex downland, and Andrew always teaches me a Hardy quote, which he might put up, which is something to do with where he says it's good to know a little.
It's better to know a little of the world very well than a lot of the world very little.
Yeah, so when we walk on the downland every day with the dogs, I really sort of see how the plants are growing and how the landscape's doing, and year to year the plants do different things. So this year it's been really wet over the winter, and then it's only started to get warm, and so things are starting to grow very lushly now, but other things have been very static, and also the grazing pattern will change phenomenally. So one of the plants we're going to see as we're walking through this field is these lovely little gold, you might see them in the background, little golden yellowy spires. Church steeples are sometimes known as, cockleburs, otherwise known as Agrimony. So that's a really lovely plant to take in today, and shall we just head on up, Andrew, and see what else we can find? And,
we shall.
Yep.
Okay.
You're supposed to be well behaved, Jasper. So here we are, where we can see the Agrimony growing in abundance here. So just to say, in terms of those growing conditions, people often get confused. Is it the same plant they're seeing? So because of whether it's being grazed or not grazed. And as I think I said, the sheep didn't come on till quite late. So the Agrimony's been able to grow. They haven't grazed it. They've weaved in between eating the sweet grass. So it comes out between, you start to see the leaves around about June time, and then these lovely yellow spires come up July, August time. And herbally we can make stuff from it with the leaves and the flowers. I've done a whole video on Agrimony by itself, so you can go check that out shortly. And it's said that the roots yield a yellow dye in September. Now here's an interesting little bit of information for you. There's often a few porky pies written about, or things repeated that are not true, or maybe true. So I haven't come across anyone who's used the root as a yellow dye, but if any of you have, it'd be really nice to know if that's actually a reality. And as we pan around, I just want to talk actually about how important chalk downland is. Chalk downland is a really rare habitat, and in a square metre of chalk downland you can have more plant biodiversity than in the Amazon rainforest if it's properly looked after. So if we think about our ancestors, 8,000-10,000 years ago, they would have cleared the downland landscape of scrub, and the sheep and the cattle, things would come on to graze it and keep it down, and all these plants are started to flourish here. But what's happening in this particular field is you can see things like the hawthorn and probably the brambles you can catch in the background are starting to run away. These would have been just seeded naturally by the birds. But the important thing to remember is that landscapes are managed, human landscapes are managed. So if we don't keep this scrub under control, we'll lose the biodiversity in this field. So what does that mean? That means really we need to think about, or the people who manage this field who are a bit concerned about it, is bringing cattle on or goats on in the winter that can take the scrub down and let this low-lying herbage really flourish. So we'll go into another field where it is it's cut at the end of the season every year, so we can see the difference of the diversity that comes through. So let's walk on and see what else we can find. I take people out on a herb walk, they're often amazed, because I've had people who've lived around here forever and just thought it was all green grass. So what we do is we walk along and we really look at things. So I'm going to talk about the contrast between two things that we've just walked past. Is here we can see where plants haven't been grazed, and they've grown to a terrific height this year because of the rain and the warmth now. So in the background we can see the very tall hogweed, the Umbraphilia family. So when we go on a herb walk, we start to identify the different botany of the plants, botanical families, and we can see by the gate there's mugwort and there's nettles growing. Whereas back in the sheep field, the the sheep have grazed it right down. They've grazed the nettle, they've grazed the hogweed, so not harmful to them at all. And they will go and eat what they need out of the field. That just free grazing, as most animals will. If they've got access to herbage, they will pick out the plants that are good and nutritious to them. But it's really important, just when we're walking, to slow ourselves down and really observe from season to season what's growing, what's flowering, how does it flower, how does it change with the light and the weather conditions. It just gives us so much information and hopefully a lot of delight. So at this clump here, there's a lot of plants to look at and a good way of seeing the difference between different plant families. So we've got the very dense, compact yarrow in the grass with very feathery leaves. But when we scan our eyes to the back, we've got the wild carrot with its big, what we call umbraphilia family. So always think of umbrellas when you think of umbraphilia. And growing, we can see another bit of agrimony with its yellow spire, and we scan round and there's the very vibrant yellow of the ragwort, which can be poisonous to horses. But up here it's a really great plant food to one of the special little moths, that the cinnabar moth, that the caterpillars feed on that. And then on the scrub behind it actually is hawthorn. So just interestingly, the hawthorn didn't really flower much in the spring, so there's hardly any haws this year that are going to be present on these trees, the little red berry-like fruits. And in the midst of it, there's, it's hard to see, but there's things like the seed heads of cleavers, which I did a video on. Those of you who watched my cleavers video, that's now turned dried and the seeds are ready to disperse. So there's a whole variety of other plants in here as well, which would have had lots of known medicinal uses. The little mauve flowers are the knapweed, again really good insect food, and there's butterflies hopping around between these lovely different plants. And then something that's very ubiquitous in this field is it's called red bartzia, slightly pinky really, mauvey pinky. So this is the field I was talking about. This gets topped every year at September time, and then everything gets taken away. So we can see there's very little scrub growing here, and the brambles that do grow, they just get cut down each time. So the density, we can see the density of plants. I mean, there's way more in here, but it'd be quite, as we maybe walk around, we'll pick out some of the really teeny tiny plants that are in this field as well, which are a joy once you know what they are. We're going to just come in a bit close here to a very tiny plant, which is actually partly a parasitic grassland downland plant, Eyebright. And a little story, when I first moved up here about 7-8 years ago, I was doing a walk with the then downland ranger, and there was just one tiny patch in another field, and now it has spread throughout all the fields, which is a real delight to see. And so the thing about going on a herb walk is this thing where we slow down, and I think as Hilaire Belloc said, what is life if we don't have time to stand and stare? So we can look at the glorious landscape and then down, into all this beautiful plant life, and it's got so many gifts to give us. So just come back to the Eyebright, the clue's in the name. It's long used for eye conditions, and you wouldn't think something so tiny would have such a big medicinal impact, but here is our nature's medicine chest. So I hope you've enjoyed coming on a virtual herb walk. If you're ever in Sussex and have a chance, I do about try and do 1 or 2 a year, you'd be very welcome. You can go and look on my website, but otherwise keep enjoying the plants and come out and just see what your eye gets drawn to and what plant you want to learn about. So thanks for listening. See you again.